movies, music, and monsters. Danger, danger. Hey, my friends, Dan Monroe here from Movies, Music, and Monsters, and boy, oh boy, have I got a treat for all of you guys. As you may or may not know, when it comes to Lost in Space popularity anywhere in the world, I must bow my head to the Australian people who have continued passionately for the last 60 years to keep the memory of Lost in Space alive, ranking number one as the country that ran syndicated Lost in Space more than anywhere else in the world, home of the incredible Lost in Space Australia fan club, or LISA for short, and one of the absolute Australian highlights regarding Lost in Space took place in March of 1994 when Jonathan Harris himself, Dr. Zachary Smith, along with the robot of course, took the stage in Sydney, Australia for a once-in-a-lifetime sold-out event called Never Fear, Smith is Here, an evening with Jonathan Harris. I very clearly remember being so excited way back in the late 1990s to receive a VHS copy of this incredible performance by Jonathan, and I honestly have to say it's probably one of my favorite Lost in Space videos to watch even to this day, which is why I've spent the last couple of weeks cleaning up this amazing video, converting it to high definition, doing some color correction and audio enhancement to really make this video come to life, which was filmed, believe it or not, 30 years ago. I've been given the permission and blessing by the Lost in Space Australia fan club to release this newly enhanced version of Never Fear, Smith is Here, right here on our channel for all of you guys to enjoy. It's not the entire 2-hour performance. I've cut it down to mostly the Lost in Space related stuff. So sit back, relax, grab your laser pistol with your favorite Remco robot toy and a bucket of stale popcorn, and enjoy this newly enhanced version of An Evening with Jonathan Harris.
Danger, danger. Warning, warning. Danger, danger. Soil analysis indicates a man-made surface containing carbon fibers. Sensors indicate a multicultural society. Computers indicate a highly intelligent audience. Conclusion: are therefore present in the Seymour Center, Sydney, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting for the first time in Australia and after 30 years of being lost in space, would you please welcome the one and certainly the only Dr. Zachary Smith, Mr. Jonathan Harris.
Never fear, Smith is here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for such a lovely greeting. I appreciate it. This is my second visit to your beautiful city. I was here in 1987, and I had a wonderful time. On my prior visit to Sydney, I came away with a fond memory of the warmth and the friendliness of the Australian people. And I feel these same sentiments here tonight.
Sorry, I was just clearing my tapes.
Well, well, you bubble-headed booby. It appears that we meet again. What have you to say for yourself?
Warning, warning, danger, danger. Warning, warning, danger, danger.
Silence, Ninny. Now then, I would like an updated and comprehensive report on the charismatic character and the attractive appearance of myself. Dr. Zachary Smith, if you please.
Dr. Smith is the boldest and most self-sacrificing member of the Jupiter 2 crew. He is helpful, handy, loyal, brave, courageous, intelligent, handsome, debonair, clean, and reverent.
Exactly so.
He is incapable of telling the truth.
How dare you, you pusillanimous pipsqueak? You will at once reprogram that last line to say, Dr. Smith is incapable of telling a lie. Now repeat.
Dr. Smith is incapable
of telling a lie, you bellicose bumpkin.
It does not compute.
Hold your tongue, sir. On second thought, my dear friend, my bosom companion, you don't seem to be yourself after all these years. Possibly some of your wires may have become corroded. I'm merely trying to help you to restore your memory banks to their former glory. Now the good people of Australia, they know me for my bravery and my virtue. They know that the mere mention of my name, Dr. Smith, all over the universe, means a valiant and handsome leader.
Yes, how could I forget? You are handsome, pretty handsome Dr. Smith.
I am indeed, and don't you forget it. But take heart, you bumbling bucket of bolts. I am your mentor, your confidant. I am your friend.
My memory banks do not identify you as my friend, Dr. Smith. Your motives are always the same. To betray the Robinson family. To return to Earth a rich man. To insult this poor defenseless robot each week. And to steal the best scenes in every show.
Silence, you Neanderthal ninny. May I remind you that you are merely a collection of nuts and bolts? You have no feelings, ergo you cannot be insulted.
May I point out, Dr. Smith, that there are two of us on stage at the moment, and one of us has not aged in 30 years. The other certainly has.
Hold your tongue, sir. Spare me your feeble attempts at humor. They fall on deaf ears. As anyone can plainly see, I am in my prime. And far more popular than a broken-down pile of pistons such as you. You can be replaced, sir. But not Dr. Smith.
Watch it, Dr. Smith. Your jealousy is showing. I beg to report I am an environmental controlled robot, a highly complex computer-oriented mobile mechanism of intricate design and construction. I have 110 computer units that all function perfectly. And besides that, I am a real sweetheart of a robot. You should treat me with decency, respect, and love.
Love, indeed. Surely you jest. Oh, the pain, the pain. Lost in space for 30 years, beset with aliens and monsters. My delicate back still plagues me. You don't seem to care after all I've done for you? Oh dear, oh dear. I'm afraid I may be violently ill.
I feel I must apologize, Dr. Smith. My sensors indicate that my last outburst on your character was erroneous and unnecessary. I am not programmed to cause you pain. After all, it is you that has kept my metallic parts oiled and polished. It is you that has maintained my computer units to function properly. I owe you a debt of gratitude, as I must admit you do take very good care of me. My computers are very moved, despite your faults. May I call you Dr. Smith, my guardian?
You may.
Dr. Smith, the father?
Bless you.
Dr. Smith, the mother?
Mother, indeed. I am not related to you in any shape, manner, or form. You, sir, are a deplorable dunderhead. While I am the one, the only, the ever-popular paragon of virtue, Dr. Zachary Smith. And don't you forget it.
It does not compute. It does not compute. It does not compute.
Begone, booby. Oh, that does take me back to many, many happy days. Now, you know, the robot was an ingenious contraption. It cost $35,000, and that was in 1965. Came apart in the middle. We called the top the bubble, and the base, of course, was the feet. Every day, a young man named Bobby May was put into the robot. The bubble was attached, and we went to work. For the first few weeks of shooting, we all felt a great sense of compassion for Bobby May being stuck in that really uncomfortable bucket. Until we realized that he liked it, you couldn't get him out. There was one problem with the robot. It would only go in one direction. You see, it was on a wire, and his movements were controlled from off stage by a prop man. If we needed him to go in another direction, everything stopped. We had to reset the wire. The robot was put on the wire. It took forever and a day. And in television, time is money. So one of our geniuses, Bob Kinoshita, who had actually designed the robot, came up with a wonderful idea. If Bobby May would consent to carry the bubble, which weighed 85 pounds, why then the camera would never shoot below the waist. Nobody would be the wiser. The robot would have complete mobility. He could run around in circles, run around in corners, do everything that we needed him to do. Bobby May, of course, agreed. We call that robot the bikini robot. Now, I have been told that there is one shot in one of the segments where you can plainly see Bobby May's fat little legs scurrying around. Now, I've never seen it, but I'm sure that it exists. They tell me that it does. Now, I want to take this opportunity to thank those of you who have been kind enough to write to me through the years. I hope I've answered all your letters. To those who have written expressing approval of my work, I am deeply grateful. And to those who have expressed disapproval of my work, well, how dare you? And now, Lost in Space. Called in Spanish, Perdido en el Espacio. Ain't that gorgeous? Before I tell you about that, I do want to say a few words about Irwin Allen, who was the executive producer of Lost in Space. A most difficult, most complex man. Very, very hard to get on with. Totally devoid of humor. That's a great failing. I did have great respect for his expertise in the area which he worked in. Earthquakes, floods, disasters, and special effects. He was marvelous. He was, in fact, a very good executive producer. But it was very difficult to get along with him. I forced myself to develop a good working relationship with Irwin. We both knew the rules. I was his star and he was my boss, and that's how we played it. I'm going to tell you an Irwin story that'll give you an insight. One day he called Paul Z into his office. Paul was his aide, his gopher, his designer, and it was Christmas time. Paul said, "What do you want?" He said, "Well, it's Christmas. I have to get some kind of a present for some guy." Paul said, "Well, what do you want to get?" "Oh, some kind of sweater, I suppose, cashmere. Paul said, what do you want to spend? $25. Paul said, you cannot get a cashmere sweater for $25. Well, then get any old kind of a sweater. $25, that's it. Any particular color, Irwin? No, color. What about the size? How do I know? Size, get it. That was Irwin. Paul went off and got any kind of a sweater, any color of a sweater, any size of a sweater. I brought it back for Irwin, who looked and said, good, wrap it up, fancy, I want to see a lot of ribbons. So Paul went away and came back with a beautiful package. And Irwin studied it. Very good. Good. Merry Christmas, Paul. I was very saddened when I heard of his death. But I did not go to the funeral. You can make of that what you will. But I will tell you exactly how I got into Lost in Space. One day in 1965, my then agent, whose name escapes me at the moment, called up and said, Irwin Allen is going to do a series at 20th Century Fox called Lost in Space, and he wants to see film on you. Let me explain that to you. In Hollywood, producers are loath to hire an actor unless they can be sure that somebody else has hired the actor. And they can see this actor on the screen, walking, talking, chewing gum all at the same time, not tripping over the camera cables or the other actors. It gives them a sense of security. Now, in my career, I have hesitated to show film unless I knew exactly what the part was that they were looking for, and unless I felt that I had that part on a piece of film. So I said to the agent, what's the part? I don't know, said Mr. 10%. So I said, why don't you call Irwin and tell him I hesitate to show him the wrong film. I prefer to show him the real thing, me. And he said, well, he's not going to like that. And I said, tough. Of course, you know what I said. 20 minutes later, he rang up and said, Irwin Allen says, who the hell do you think you are? He'll see you at 4 o'clock. So at 4 o'clock, I went to 20th Century Fox, my favorite movie studio. I had started my Hollywood television career at 20th Century Fox in my first series, Third Man with Michael Rennie. And I loved working there. It was a big movie star studio with big movie stars. It was absolutely wonderful. I found my way to Irwin's office, and I was ushered in to the presence. And there he was, behind a huge desk, surrounded by his coterie of yes men. The head yes man was a man named Frank Lartourette. Very nice man, actually. I was, of course, very nervous. Good afternoon, gentlemen. And Irwin said, who the hell do you think you are? No film. So I said, well, Mr. Allen, I hesitate to show you the wrong film. I prefer to show you the real thing, me. What did he say, Lartourette? He doesn't want to show you the wrong film. Oh. Then he said, do you want to be in this series? I said, well, I don't know, Mr. Allen. I haven't read a script. What did he say, Lartourette? He hasn't read a script. Somebody give him a script. Somebody did. I had a script. Amazing. It was absolutely the weirdest experience, I cannot tell you. Then he turned to the casting man, who was also in the office, and he said, sign him up and don't pay him too much money. A situation I quickly changed, you may be sure. Then he said, I suppose you want billing. I said, well, Mr. Allen, it is customary for an actor of my stature to get proper billing on the screen. What did he say, Lartourette? He wants billing. Oh. Let me tell you, I already shot the pilot. You weren't in it. Your character wasn't in it. All the other actors are signed, sealed, and delivered. You have to be last. I said, well, could you tell me, please, who are the other actors? And he did. And I said, well, lovely people, I'm sure, but I don't believe I would be comfortable last. What did he say, Lance? He doesn't want to be last. Oh. Well, he said, let me tell you, You go home and you think about it. And you come up with an answer. And then you call me up. The finger was going. I was terrified. You go home and you do that and you call me up. I flew out of there, staggering, really. I went home and read the script. And I said, Jonathan, this is a goodie. You have to do this one because it is a goodie. Billing. God. Management puts a great store in billing, and so we actors have to put a great store in billing. What to do? I would not, of course, even try to tamper with other actors' billing. It's unethical, unprofessional. You don't do that. But last? If I had to do the series, I would have to be last. Last? Let me see now. Last. Well, if it could be some sort of special last, that might do it. So I called a friend of mine who's head of casting at NBC, and I said, I'm going to be a regular member of a television series appearing every week. Have you ever given a regular member of a series special guest star billing? He said, you're out of your head. Of course not. That doesn't exist. I never would. I never will. What for? Don't have that kind of billing. I said, thank you. That's all I want to know. So I called Erwin and I said, I've solved the billing problem. So, how? I said, I will accept last position, special guest star, Jonathan Harris. Well, he raged and ranted for 20 minutes. He howled like an owl. I stood my ground and just said nothing, and finally said, oh, all right, you actors, you're all insane. Most of you can't act anyway. All right, if that's what, oh, God, actors drive me crazy. Why do you have to put up with actors? And he hung up the phone. That's how I got to be Dr. Zachary Smith. And I learned to love him, and I love him still. Now, I want to say a few words about the glamour of showbiz. Glamour? I never figured out how glamorous it was to get up at 5 o'clock every morning and risk life and limb on the Hollywood freeway, collapse into the makeup at 7 o'clock, half awake, the other half totally asleep, stagger into your dressing room, get into the costume with the aid of the dresser, stagger on to the set. 8 o'clock, you're always in the first shot, and they diddle and they light and they diddle and it takes forever. And you sit and you wait, and finally they say, all right, rehearsal, and you're really half asleep. Glamorous. It's hard work, but the rewards are great. Glamour. We have all read in the newspapers and in the magazines that so-and-so had their clothes ripped off and the buttons ripped off, you know, by the fans. And I always yawned and said, oh, sure, publicity, public relations fantasy, until it happened to me. I was in Bangkok in Thailand. And the manager of the television station that was running Lost in Space, where it was a huge hit, rang up and he said, we hear that you're here. Would you do a live television interview at the station? And I said, yes. So they sent a car and I went, did the interview with a lovely bilingual lady. When it was over, he said, some people have heard that you're here. They're in the courtyard. Would you wave hello? I said, all right. I walked out and my antenna went straight up. The some people were surely 500 behind a cordon of police. Now, the Thais are a lovely, gentle people. They are. They are. Grinning from ear to ear. Screaming, Dr. Speeds, I love you, Dr. Speeds, I love you. I said, get me in the car. Too late. They broke through the cordon of police and I was surrounded. Dr. Speeds, I love you, please. The next thing I knew, I was on the ground. Turned to stone with fear. I said, Harris, you've had it, this is it. And there they were, grinning ear to ear, lovely. The police came to my rescue and beat them off with the batons. There was blood everywhere. It was hideous. They finally got me up on my feet and into the car. These lovely people surrounded the car. I thought they would turn it over with love and affection and kill me. Dr. Seuss, I love you. Go away. Leave me alone. It took 20 minutes to drive off the courtyard, back to the hotel, where it took half a bottle of gin to calm my nerves, I can tell you. Glamour, you can be killed with glamour. Now, a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. Fans and fan mail. Oh my. I'm happy to tell you that in my time I have received thousands of letters from all over the world. Fan mail. We did a segment where a great boulder, paper mache, came crashing down on Mark Goddard's foot. And Mark acted up a storm about the terrible pain that this caused him. About 2 weeks after this episode aired, Mark came to my dressing room with a letter from a gentleman in Nebraska. And he said that he had just seen this episode where this terrible boulder came crashing down on Mark's foot. And the way that Mark acted, the pain was just so beautiful. And could Mark send him a plaster cast of his foot? And if he couldn't do that, could he send a picture of his foot? They're out there. And if Mark couldn't do that, could he send the dimensions of his foot? I said, Mark, lovely, tear it up, throw it away. He said, no, I'm going to answer this one. That devil went out and found a picture of a foot in a magazine. And he sent it to this gentleman in Nebraska, where I'm sure it is enshrined and is worshipped every day.
My question to you is, you had so many fabulous guest stars on Lost in Space.
Oh, yes.
Who was your favourite to work with, and who was your least favourite to work with?
Favorite, Michael Rennie, of course. We had a two-part of The Keeper. I had done my first series with Michael Rennie. We were devoted friends. He was a wonderful man. A wonderful man. I'll tell you about Michael. The first day I met him on the set of 20th Century Fox, The Third Man, God forbid they should have made a cocktail party to introduce the two co-stars. Never. So I walked on the set, and the producer said, oh, come and meet Michael Rennie. Michael was about 6'4", very slender and absolutely gorgeous. He had dimples and the bluest eyes you ever saw. And he was very British. So I walked over and said, hello, I'm very happy to meet you. And he said, how do you do? And I said, oh my God. 39 episodes, I better find out if anybody's home there. And I did, and oh, was there somebody home. He was a wicked, lovely, adorable man. And it broke my heart when he died. He was my favorite, because we had a reunion like you can't believe. My least favorite, John Carradine. I had done a play for 2.5 years on Broadway with John Carradine. We used to throw up in the wings because he was drunk. And say, nobody's going to say Carradine is too drunk to work. Beg your pardon? Who? Somebody says what?
What was wrong with him?
I can't hear you.
What
Who?
was wrong with him?
What was wrong with him? He was a pain in the ass.
Hi Jonathan, my name's Tim. I just wanted to know what your relationship was like with Mark Goddard, who played Don West.
The relationship on the screen, you mean?
Well, off screen, because you seem to have
Off-screen.
such a
I loved him
interesting
off-screen. He
relationship.
was a wonderful
on screen.
fellow. He had a lovely, dry, droll, wry sense of humor, which I adored. He was a marvelous fellow and very attractive and lovely fellow. On the screen, well, you know, we didn't like each other. And that was on the page, so that's what you do. Has nothing to do with your relationship the minute they say cut. We go right back to being who we really are. But you have to maintain the relationship that was dictated on the page. And Mark is really one of my favorite people because he made me laugh. I have got to have a giggle every day on the set or I go crazy. I cannot stand it, I must have a giggle. And Mark really supplied that giggle. And of course Billy Mooney, my darling Billy Mooney, such a good actor, 11 years old, he's going to kill him, right? It was wonderful. It was wonderful to work with Billy. So quick, so smart, so fast. A treasure. See, I never treated kid actors like kid actors. I treated them like actors. And that's the way I did. And I did so with Billy. You know, on the set, they can only work 20 minutes, then they have to go to the schoolhouse, which is on the set. I had a deal worked out with his teacher, Frances Clamp, lovely lady, that if we had a really difficult scene to play, Billy and I, that I would steal it for 5 minutes from Frances Clamp. And she allowed that. Billy was so fast. He'd come into the dressing room, I'd shut the door and say, okay, this is what we have to do. 5 minutes. Bang! In the first take. He was wonderful. He was acting when he was 6 years old, you know. You ever see his Twilight Zone? That's the famous one. He was like 6 years old and already so good. And as far as his mother is concerned, want to hear about stage mothers? I've had a few rows, I must say, in my time, and I always won. I had several of them barred from the set. It was them or me. Who do you think went? Yes.
My question was, to my knowledge, there wasn't a final episode of Lost in Space where they actually went back to Earth finally, or even made it to Alpha Centauri.
No.
Is that a regret in your life that you never actually made? I mean, it's too late to do it now.
The
'cause
regret
God
in my
willing.
life was that we didn't get 2 more years, because all that money would have come in. Let me tell you how that happened. I was in New York in April of 1968 for CBS, and they put me up in a beautiful suite at the Regency Hotel on Park Avenue, very posh. And the usual things were in the suite, luggage and Dom Perignon champagne and fruit, and oh, it was lovely. And the card on it was signed by Tom Hagen, something or other. I forget, Tom something. So being a big gentleman, I called up CBS and got this Tom, and I said, thank you for all the goodies. That was really lovely of you. He said, shall we have lunch tomorrow? And I said, yes. In New York, you have lunch. In Hollywood, you do lunch. And you take a meeting. You take a meeting and then you do lunch. Totally madness. Anyway, he said, call me up in the morning and we'll make a date. I said, lovely. The next morning, I open my door and there's my coffee and the New York Times. So, of course, I quickly turned to the television page. Lost in Space canceled. Son of a bitch knew it. He knew it. I could not believe I didn't call him, of course. I mean, that is showbiz. And the ways of networks are very strange. Very strange indeed. Now I had to find out why the cancellation. So I snooped, and I did find out. It appears that CBS wanted to cut the budget for the 4th year. Too many effects. Cutting the budget by many, many thousands of dollars. Irwin Allen said nothing doing. He would rather cut the actors than the effects, anytime. And they fought and they fought and they said, we cut the budget or you're off the air. And he said, don't you dare. They did. We were canceled. We had 2 more years in us. It was very sad.
When Lost in Space was being produced, I was told that right next door to the Lost in Space set, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea,
Yes.
and Lost in Space.
Yeah.
Did you ever come into contact with any of the cast, in particular Richard Basehart?
Oh yes, Richard Basehart was an old friend and wonderful actor.
On that,
Wonderful actor in everything. And you know what he did? He became really even dearer to me because he one day borrowed the set to Irwin Allen. Irwin Allen came on with one of his things, you know, that madman. And it upset the Duke, who said, get off the set or I'm going home. Well, Irwin understood that. Backed up. And didn't venture again for a couple of weeks. Let me tell you, Irwin was a director killer. Oh, if ever I wanted to direct, he cured me of that. He used to come on the set doing this. Huh? 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 Just awful. When that happened, I used to disappear into my dressing room until it stopped hitting the fan. And I would wait until my darling stand-in, Handsome Harry by name, would come tapping on the door and say, it's safe to come out. Because I'll tell you why. I could not allow that nonsense to enter my head because it would have affected the work. and I was working too hard. I was shooting 12 pages a day, and I couldn't allow that crap to destroy my work. And that's what I did for 3.5 years. Disappeared and came out when it was safe. By the way, Handsome Harry, I dubbed him that little wonderful man. And I never had it so good with the Standard. He protected me and he saved me. And I knew Irwin Allen's spies. He did not know mine. And I had them. It's called survival. Now, you know, in Hollywood, they hire you and they say, you don't mind taking this fall. I don't do that work. That's stuntman work. Get Handsome Harry to do it. And every time I would not, they would have to go to Handsome Harry and say, how much is it going to cost us to do this fall? It's called a bump. And Handsome Harry would say, it's a $15 bump. Do it for 10. Nope. Handsome Harry, the first year, made $23,000 in bumps. Thanks to me. Now, I didn't do that to screw the management. No, I don't believe in that. I did that because I was protecting myself. And as many times as you say, no, I will not do that fall. I will not fall off the mountain. They come to you again and again to save the $10 bump. It's showbiz. And it made me laugh. But there it is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, I want to thank you for being a wonderful audience. You have really warmed the cockles of my heart, and I thank you. After the interval, I will sign autographs. I will shake a hand. I plan to kiss all the pretty girls. If any of you gents have the same idea, forget it. See you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonathan Harris.
Movies,
music, and monsters.